This is Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand for the morning of March 20th, 2023. I'm Wes Mills. Indianapolis-based ag tech startup Athian expects to close a $5 million round of seed funding by the end of the month. The company also expects to begin beta testing its first software product, a platform to help dairy farmers measure, verify, and monetize their carbon reduction efforts. Athian has secured seed investments from 3 industry partners, among them Greenfield-based Elanco and Tyson Ventures, the corporate venture arm of the Arkansas-based meat producer. The company has 15 dairies signed up as beta testers for its software, with testing to begin later this month. Once the product for dairy farms launches, Athian plans to roll out products aimed at other protein markets, including beef, pork, poultry, and fish. The parent company of Silicon Valley Bank filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection Friday, a week after the tech-focused bank failed and set off fears of wider problems in the global banking system. The filing from SVB Financial Group was widely expected, with much of the company now under the control of banking regulators. The bank had been considered the go-to financial partner for the nation's startup ecosystem. Ball State University's Center for Business and Economic Research Director Mike Hicks appeared on Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick.
Silicon Valley Bank catered to the startup community, investors in the startup sector. Many Indiana companies getting capital in that way. Do you sense that there's going to be impact there, or do you just see funds shifting from an SVB to other banks, maybe bigger banks in that scenario?
The answer is yes, there's going to be some shock. There's going to be money at least tied up for a while for many of these startups who need to pay suppliers, pay employees. So that's a problem. Secondly, there'll be a flight of capital. That money's going to go to other banks, which may suggest that people are saying, that's a safe place to be, good risk management. We'll move money there. How are these banks that are maybe not as familiar with the venture capital world going to learn the servicing techniques that those banks need? So, maybe we'll see a sort of geographic deconcentration of the startup environment to spread across the country a little bit better. That would be great for Indiana. That would, if there was more capital moving to safer banks, and then the expertise to service venture capitals moved away from the coasts.
Silicon Valley Bank was the second largest bank to fail in U.S. history. Chicago-based marketing and packaging firm R.R. Donnelley says it will close its plant in Plainfield, leaving nearly 80 people without jobs. The plant provides final stage product assembly, medical device kitting, and direct-to-consumer web fulfillment. At one time, R.R. Donnelley was the world's largest commercial printer, but the business suffered because of weakening demand for many printed products. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Get ready, Northwest Indiana. We're headed your way. IBJ Media, Inside Indiana Business, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation invite you to the inaugural Engage Northwest Indiana event, presented by CareSource, Indiana University, and Old National Bank. Tuesday, April 25th at Valparaiso University. We'll be diving into regional and statewide initiatives with a focus on talent, education, and issues shaping our economy. More at ibj.com/engage.
A University of Notre Dame psychologist is using a $4 million grant to reinvent suicide prevention efforts for teens, and the first tool he'll use is a high-tech earbud that stimulates a nerve connected to emotions. Inside Indiana Business reporter Kylie Valletta.
The standard intervention for teens at risk of suicide is in-person therapy, but it's expensive and impractical for young people who need it most, often teens in urban and rural settings. About 200 teens in the South Bend region will soon be testing a new tool, a high-tech earbud that delivers an electrical current to the vagus nerve, which has shown success in treating depression and reducing suicide risk in adults. The South Bend group will be the first teenagers in the country to try the method to prevent suicide. The study is part of the Notre Dame Suicide Prevention Initiative, launched just 1 year ago. It's led by Notre Dame psychologist Dr. Theodore Beauchesne, who came to the university to launch the initiative and shift his entire career focus to suicide.
We have an enormous shortfall up here of qualified mental health professionals. And so to the extent that Notre Dame can serve both the research mission, which we're doing with this grant, and provide more services locally, it's incumbent on us to do that.
Beauchesne is co-leading the study, which will also build and test an app to connect teens experiencing similar struggles to reduce social isolation, a major risk factor for suicide. Kylie Valletta, Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Former Indiana Governor Joe Kernan was honored Friday as a patriot and leader during a State House ceremony, unveiling a memorial bust of him more than 2 years after his death. Kernan died in August 2020 of declining health due to Alzheimer's disease. He was 74. There was no public memorial at the time due to COVID-19 restrictions. Kernan served as the mayor of South Bend for 3 terms before being elected lieutenant governor with Governor Frank O'Bannon. Kernan became governor in September 2003 when O'Bannon suffered a deadly stroke. The Ports of Indiana is helping Mount Vernon High School FFA students grow crops and raise funds for future educational programs. The statewide Ports Authority is leasing 5 acres of land on the port complex to the FFA chapter and has waived all fees. The authority says it's made this donation for several years. Each year, the students sell its crops to local grain facilities and port companies. The FFA Mount Vernon chapter typically raises about $3,500 from the 5 acres. The money is used to pay for educational programming, career development, and costs associated with attending the National FFA Convention. Grissom Air Reserve Base will be a bit quieter this summer in terms of plane traffic. The Grissom runway is about to undergo a $60 million makeover. The fleet of KC-135 refueling tankers will be temporarily relocated to Fort Wayne. Then they'll transition to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, which is undergoing its own repairs. The Grissom runway project is expected to wrap up by this fall. I'm Wes Mills, Inside Indiana Business, Radio on Demand.